The significant impact of the Iceland volcano eruption. A volcano is erupting once again in Iceland. Is there likely a rise in eruptions due to climate change? After 8 months of dormancy, the Fagradalsfjall volcano in Iceland started to erupt once again. So far there have been no negative effects on people or aviation traffic. Eruption was anticipated. It occurred after many days of earthquake activity in a seismically active but unoccupied location. It's difficult to predict how long it will stay, although an eruption in the same region 2 years ago lasted for roughly 6 months. In this video is all the information on the significant impact of the Iceland volcano eruption. You wouldn't want to miss out on any of that, so do watch until the end. Iceland's recent eruptions have generated worldwide attention. Our land, seas and atmosphere are all warming up as a result of climate change. In addition, it has the ability to influence the cooling effect that occurs after volcanic eruptions and to affect the scale of eruptions. Any of these possibilities may have far-reaching repercussions. However, we are still unsure of how a warmer environment can affect volcanic activity. Even after the eruption halted on September 18, 2021, the Fagradalsfjall eruption continued to draw attention. After nearly a year of rest, a fresh eruption started last month on August 3rd. The last time there was an eruption in this region before the current activity was almost 800 years ago. On the north and south shores of the peninsula, 2 fissure eruptions from this place generated significant lava flows that reached the ocean. The Reykjanes Peninsula may be beginning a prolonged phase of unrest, which might feature alternating seismic deformation and eruptive activity, according to the Scientific Advisory Board of the Icelandic Civil Protection. Of the few locations on Earth where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge may be seen is in the area, where eruptions are distinguished by effusive lava flows and sparse tephra deposits. Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, is on the northeastern extremity of the Reykjanes Peninsula, while the international airport is on the western end. As a result, eruptions on the peninsula might be quite destructive. Beginning in January 2020 in the area of Mount Thorbjorn, this place was accompanied by seismic activity and uplift that was above the usual background levels. Based on seismic and deformation data, scientists came to the conclusion that a magmatic intrusion had taken place at a depth of several kilometers. Several additional intrusive events and seismic swarms, as well as a few bigger earthquakes, occurred in the region during the year. Increased seismic activity and a deformation signal in February 2021 showed an intrusion took place close to Fagradalsfjall. Early in March, there was an upsurge in seismic activity, which was linked to a shallow magma movement occurring between 0.6 and 1.5 kilometers below the surface. Because the magma was already near to the surface, the Icelandic Meteorological Office (IMO) highlighted that an eruption may occur even in the absence of any major precursory indications. On March 19, 2021, about 8:45 PM, an eruption started close to Fagradalsfjall in Meridilia Valley, from a fissure that was around 200 meters long. Low lava fountains emerged. After a few weeks, all of the eruptions came from a single vent where the fountains created a horseshoe-shaped spatter cone and fed a channel lava flow through its entrance. On the northern ridge of the March 2021 lava field near the Meridilia Valley, a fresh fissure appeared at 1:18 on August 3rd. Seismological activity and deformation rates rapidly decreased after the eruption began. In contrast to the eruption in 2021, activity slowed down considerably in less than 3 weeks. The volcanic tremor had stopped by the evening of August 21, and there were no signs of volcanic activity at the eruption site. 2022 Fagradalsfjall volcano eruption. The Fagradalsfjall volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula erupted on August 3, 2022. The catastrophe was preceded by a week's worth of earthquakes, the greatest of which registered over 5.0 on the Richter scale. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries or any property damage. Geologists cautioned, however, that a volcanic explosion was imminent. Those forecasts were ultimately realized on August 3rd when a 300-meter long volcanic fissure in the Fagradalsfjall Valley suddenly erupted, spewing 20 to 50 square meters of lava per second. The Fagradalsfjall Valley volcanic eruption in 2021 was approximately 0.6 miles from the eruption site. Icelandic volcanoes may drastically differ in terms of how dangerous an eruption is. Some tourists still remember the 2010 eruptions, which caused disruptions in aviation traffic across Europe with its thick volcanic ash. A long time ago, in 1783, Europe experienced severe starvation as a consequence of crop failures brought on by the enormous Fagradalsfjall eruption. Fortunately, the most recent eruption of the Fagradalsfjall volcano was relatively benign, despite its ominous aspect and the area around it resembling Mordor around the eruption site. It posed no danger to people, property or air transport. The fact that the eruption of Fagradalsfjall volcano was effusive rather than explosive was the primary factor in its lack of danger. This indicates that the lava did not erupt from the Earth's crust in an explosion of ash and fire. Rather, molten rivers of lava were formed as the lava continued to flow steadily from the Fagradalsfjall Valley's volcanic vent. It also helps that the eruption happened in a remote valley far from any populated areas or critical infrastructure. Details on the Fagradalsfjall. Fagradalsfjall volcano erupted for the first time 6,000 years ago. The lava was among the oldest to have surfaced in Iceland in a very long period, since the magma chamber had been quiescent for thousands of years. The present eruption of Fagradalsfjall Valley is about 0.6 miles from the eruption that occurred in Fagradalsfjall Valley, also known as the Valley of the Geldings. The 700-meter long volcanic fissure that emerged in the valley was immediately ferociously active. Most people flocked to the eruption site in droves to see sudden, spectacular volcanic outbursts. Most people were not prepared for the eruptions of the Reykjanes despite scientists' repeated warnings. But when Reykjavik residents could see the sky becoming red in the distance from their window, they were curious to find out what all the fuss was about. The Reykjanes Peninsula's volcanism has recently attracted more tourists to the area. Since the volcano erupted, places like the Salantaga ruins and Gunnhöfða hot springs and the distinctive Brimketil geothermal pool have all seen a rise in visitors. With its steaming vents and boiling hot mud pots, the geothermal region of Krýsuvík is perhaps the finest illustration of the terrestrial force that lies under the peninsula. On this 8-hour minibus tour with a private guide who will take you to all the major locations, you can discover the beauties of the Reykjanes Peninsula. You may also take a thrilling 1-hour panoramic buggy tour on the Reykjanes Peninsula. If you're seeking for something spectacular that will let you experience the countryside as if you were driving on the moon. Fagradalsfjall is well known for its volcanic activity as well as being the scene of a devastating World War II historical incident during an Atlantic refueling stopping in 1943. While Iceland was occupied by Allies, the bomber aircraft Hot Stuff was trapped in severe weather and crashed on a hillside. The storied aircraft, which had endured 25 bombing sorties over Europe, was slated to visit the US to promote war bonds. At the time, it was the deadliest aircraft accident to ever occur in Iceland, and 14 of the 15 people on board perished. Lieutenant General Frank Andrews, the highest ranked Allied officer to die in the line of duty at this stage in the war, was among those who perished. In close proximity to Fagradalsfjall, there is a memorial honouring the crash victims. In 2018, 75 years after the horrible catastrophe, the memorial was inaugurated. What was the duration of the Fagradalsfjall eruption, and will it happen again? Many tourists across the globe are interested in seeing an Icelandic volcanic explosion up close, and are curious as to whether the Fagradalsfjall volcano will erupt again. Without the capacity to predict the future, such a question is difficult to answer. Iceland's seismic activity is unpredictable, much like its weather. Before last year, the Fagradalsfjall volcano had not erupted in almost 6,000 years, but since then it's done so twice. The Fagradalsfjall eruption in 2022 only lasted for around 3 weeks, but the 2021 eruption lasted a total of 6 months. There were a number of ebbs and flows along the road throughout the eruption phase. Sometimes the eruption might pause and produce relatively little lava for a few days or weeks before suddenly picking up and producing a considerable amount of lava. 1 cubic meter of lava might flow from the volcano every second, up to 50 cubic meters per second. Nobody is certain when the volcano may erupt once more. Geologists predict that there will be another volcanic eruption in the near future, somewhere on the Reykjanes Peninsula, albeit maybe not at Fagradalsfjall. The volcanic system underneath the peninsula seems to have just awoken from a protracted sleep, and it is far from the sole volcano on the peninsula. Keep a careful check on Guide to Iceland for any volcano related news, if you want to be sure to see it with your own eyes when it occurs. That's about it for the video. Thanks for watching. Your likes and subscriptions to our channel is a great way to show appreciation of what we're doing. Please keep it coming. We'd also like to know your thoughts and feelings over this volcanic experience. Feel free to drop a comment below.